The Buffalo Bills are looking to bounce back before heading into their bye week, while the Atlanta Falcons are looking to rise up coming out of their bye.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to a crossover Thursday presented by Prize Picks here on Locked On Falcons and Locked On Bills. And make sure you download the Prize Picks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So this is Locked On Falcons. This is Locked On Bills. Of course, I'm joined by the illustrious host of Locked On Bills, Joe Marino. I am, of course, Aaron Freeman, the very humble host of Locked On Falcons. And we appreciate each and every one of you that is an everydayer of each of these pods. That means you make these pods your first listen each and every day. And all you got to do to become an everydayer is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can get the latest episode as soon as it is available. So Joe and I, we're just a couple of guys being dudes. We're going to talk this week 6 matchup between the Falcons and Bills on Monday Night Football. Of course, we'll get into some of the intriguing matchups between these two teams and, of course, get into the keys to victories. But let's start off with sort of what's the big story going on for each one of these teams. And Joe will give you the floor as the road team heading down to Atlanta on Monday night. Sort of what's the big story for the Bills coming off a not say shocking loss. It's a division game. Those are always very much nail biters in competitive games. But certainly I think the expectation for a lot of folks was that the Bills would find a way to win against that Patriots team. They did not, unfortunately, do so. And it seems like they probably are looking to sort of get their season back on track, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it, Aaron. And first of all, it's good to chat with you, dude. We don't get to do this very often with one of these teams being the AFC, one in the NFC. I talk to the Chiefs guys all the time, the Ravens guys, the AFC. So it's good to be able to cross streams with you. And then I think there are two other things that we have got to say before I get into the Bills and bouncing back. Shout out for this game being a 7:15 start. Boy, that's going to be nice. Not having to start at like 8:20 and the late nights that those present. But also, how about this uniform matchup, dude? I think that the Falcons with the red helmets and the black jerseys, that's their best look, man. That's so good. And the Bills come in with their all white standing Buffalo throwback. So I think we're going to have an elite uniform contest on Monday night. And I'm excited about all of that. But yeah, you're right, man. This is all about bouncing back for this Buffalo Bills football team that took a pretty uncharacteristic loss. They don't really lose divisional games very often. They certainly don't lose at home very often. And they don't lose in the manner in which they did. They gave away the ball 3 times. Aaron, they gave away the ball 9 times in the previous 24 games prior when you go back to the start of 2024, including the playoff games. And to give it away 3 times twice in one quarter is like, what is going on here? And then on top of that, 11 penalties for 90 yards, where whether it was giving New England free first downs or putting the offense behind the sticks, it created for some unusual circumstances. And this is a team that will look to bounce back, of course, and they do a good job of that since 2020. And that's really the year where the Bills kind of became this team that we've enjoyed, with Josh Allen, the player he's become. They're 17-5 coming off of a loss, and they have an average margin of victory of 10.3 points. And so I'm expecting to see a Bills team that's got a bye, right, coming up after this. I don't think they want to go into that bye with a 2-game losing streak. I want to get that stink out of their mouth and hopefully get to 5-1 here going into the bye, and then maybe they can come out of it and hand the Panthers a loss.
There you go. Well, Falcon fans will rejoice over that, but obviously, the Falcons fans want to see the Falcons get a win between now and then. And it's funny, Joe, you mentioned some of the things talked about earlier this week on Locked On Falcons, where like, having talked with a lot of Falcon fans going into that Sunday night matchup between the Bills and Patriots, they were hoping to see the Bills win because they don't want to get a reinvigorated, a hungry Bills team coming off a loss. And as you said, quoting some of those stats, they typically do not, go back-to-back poor performances over this, era that you talk about, where you've had, the MVP level Josh Allen for the last 5 seasons. And so we'll see if the Falcons can answer that, the expectation for what this Bills team is going to be. And that to me is kind of the big story for the Falcons, which is what is this team, right? They're coming off their bye week. They had their most impressive, or one of their more impressive wins of the season, at least for the offense, in that week 4 win over Washington. Their defense really shined in that week 2 win on prime time against the Minnesota Vikings. But like, this is the first of several games that the Falcons have over this stretch of the season where they're going to face a lot of teams that have, not only playoff aspirations, but Super Bowl aspirations. Obviously, you go over the FanDuel right now, our proud sponsor, and the Bills are the number 1 team in the NFL in terms of Super Bowl odds currently. And then you have 2 other teams over the next couple of games for the Falcons against the 49ers and Colts that are in the top 10 in terms of Super Bowl odds. And so this game kind of really represents a sort of starting off point for this Falcon team to sort of say, hey, we're also a team that is a legit competitor, not only for a playoff spot, but maybe potentially for, doing more in the month of January. And it kind of starts with this Bills team as a kind of measuring stick to see, how close are the Falcons to that. And, they'll need some of their young skill players like Michael Penix Jr., Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. All these guys have had, good starts to their season. Hopefully they can get Darnell Mooney going, who's another sort of key piece to that offense, and unleash the full, firepower of this battle station, as one Emperor Palpatine might say, on this Bills defense come Monday night.
I think you got the right idea there, Aaron. We kind of talked on the pre-show a little bit about this, and I'm excited to kind of learn more about Atlanta this week as well. It's still very new in the Michael Penix era. Obviously, got a few starts late last season and then enters this year as a starter. But an early bye, week 5 bye, is always a little strange. And when you think about the 3 games prior, it's okay, the JJ McCarthy Vikings, it's the Panthers and Bryce Young. Like, who even knows what that team is? And then the Marcus Mariota Washington Commanders. And so I'm excited to get more of a feel for this Atlanta team that obviously I think has some really dynamic talent, but putting it all together and, still a pretty new coaching staff as well. I think it'll be a fun measuring stick to see where this Falcons team's at.
Yeah. And so, as we continue today's crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks, we'll get into some of the sort of intriguing and key matchups that could, decide the outcome of this game here on today's Locked On Falcons and Locked On Bills. So let's get right into that. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda, who craft cars for those who do more than simply move. We know that athletes sweat all the details from footwork to breath work, but Mazda's bringing that same intention and attention to detail as they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery that, it feels so good when you're in a Mazda vehicle. And you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So continuing today's crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks, myself, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, Joe Marino of Locked On Bills. Joe, I'm curious, what are some of the key matchups as we look at this Monday night game between these two teams that you'll be focused on?
Yeah, it's that running back down there in Atlanta, Bijan Robinson. Bijan, is it Bijan? I want to get this right. Is it Bijan? That's what we're going with?
His mom calls him Bijan, right?
Well, that's what we should call him, right?
Yes, and he doesn't care, so you can say whatever you want.
All right, I appreciate it, because we lived through the Tyrod to Rod thing, and it's people yell at you when you don't call people the right thing. That's one thing I've learned in my tenure of podcasting, is if you get a name wrong, people are going to let you know. So I was trying to get ahead of that. But it's that guy, man. It's Robinson, dude. That guy's a dude. He's got the stuff. He's big. He's physical. He's unbelievably agile and dynamic and elusive and all the things that one player shouldn't be. And that's a big test for this Buffalo Bills defense that's been vulnerable, right? I think that's a pretty fair statement, particularly against the run. And, this is a different kind of cat at running back. And it's not just the running ability where he has 314 rushing yards in 4 games. It's what this guy's doing as a receiver. 18 catches for 270 yards. That doesn't make sense. That's a lot of yards per reception there for Bijan Robinson. And so he's a mismatch player through and through against every team. And the Bills have been shaky with tackling, particularly with their second and third levels. And their corners tackle pretty good. But this guy presents a unique challenge for Buffalo, and that's what it comes down to. I know we want to get like specific, and I would love, and I will talk to you about some very specific player versus player stuff. But generally speaking, it's Bijan Robinson and the challenge that he presents to a Buffalo Bills defense that's vulnerable. And they've given up huge games. You go back to some games against Jonathan Taylor throughout the years, some games against Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. I mean, this is that type of back. And the Bills will have to have the right plan to neutralize him, or else, he can gash them for all kinds of yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Bijan is kind of the key matchup when I'm looking at this Falcons offense against this Bills defense. And you mentioned the receiving yards, like 40% of those yards basically come on 2 plays. And it's basically his ability to, pop a pass for 50, 60 yards at any given moment. And so I'm curious, Joe, I know Matt Milano's dealing with some injuries. How do you feel about, Terrell Bernard and Shaq Thompson potentially as options to deal with Bijan Robinson, especially coming off this week 4 game against Washington that the Falcons had, where they finally were really able to fully unleash him as a pass catcher with some of the design things that they were able to do, splitting him out wide, not only getting him out of the backfield as well. How do you feel about this Bills linebacker core? Because the Falcons were really able to take advantage of guys like Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu in that Washington game. Do you feel like that's a major worry for you in this Bills matchup?
Yes, absolutely. Matt Milano's not going to play. I'd be very surprised if he did. So you're probably going to get Terrell Bernard and Shaq Thompson on the second level. And I think Shaq Thompson's been the Bills' Bills' best linebacker this year. And certainly Falcons fans know about him from his time with the Carolina Panthers. And so those are players that are going to have to play big this week. There's no doubt about it. And I think there's some things structurally that the Bills need to be willing to do to be a little more aggressive with how they play. I'm not necessarily meaning blitz, but I think you need to be able to load up the box a little bit, play in some lower alignments, and dare Atlanta to be more of a down the field team, something they haven't proven to be yet this year. And so I think for Buffalo to neutralize Bijan, I think it starts with being a little bit more willing to play in lower alignments and crowd and get more population to the ball quicker by having guys closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that'll be a big stress for Buffalo on Monday night.
Yeah, you mentioned the vertical passing game that the Falcons haven't quite been able to get going to the level that I think a lot of us expected with Michael Penix at the helm and some of the threats that they have at the wide receiver position. They were able to get Drake London on a big play down the field in week 4 against Washington. They haven't been able to get Darnell Mooney going. And I feel like, and again, I don't know what Mooney's status is going to be coming off a hamstring injury. We'll find out later this week when some of the various practice reports come out. But I feel like this is a potential breakout game for Darnell Mooney, at least as far as the 2025 season goes, because when I look at the Bills defense and their secondary, I do feel like, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the quicker, speedier type of wide receiver tends to give this secondary a little bit more issues, just because, Tre'Davious White isn't the player that he once was. And, Benford, from my eye, hasn't played to his usual high standard. And so I'm wondering, because of, Buffalo's potential to crowd the box, will that allow an opportunity for a player like Mooney to be able to have the impact down the field that we saw him have a lot of last year, where he was like number 2 in the NFL among wide receivers in explosive plays? Will he be able to get unleashed on Monday night?
I think that's the interesting foil ahead in this game, where the Bills structurally are designed to take away explosive plays, right? They live in this world where they're going to dare you to string together play after play after play after play. And if you can do that and not get behind the sticks and not make mistakes, you can probably get yourself in a reasonable spot to score, because of structurally how they like to play. They're going to give you a lot of split safety coverages and take away those shots down the field. I think the Bills have the 8th lowest average depth of target against them this year. So it's been a characteristic thing under Sean McDermott throughout his tenure. And so, yes, the quicker receivers are typically a concern based on just the matchups, but because of how they leverage vertically, it doesn't present a lot of opportunities. And so that doesn't mean that there's not going to be great chances for Mooney and the other receivers. I think it's going to come more in the form of winning with separation in route running and being able to hit throws in rhythm, particularly outside the numbers, right? That's the Bills structurally want to funnel you into low percentage throws outside the numbers. They're going to play inside out with their leverage. And so, if you can create that separation and hit the throws, you can do it. We've seen it happen, right? Drake May did that last week in the win, but I think that's, for as appealing as it might look, structurally, they're going to be designed to take that away. I think the Bills should be willing to dare them to see if they can get it going to help neutralize Bijan, but I don't know if that's going to be Buffalo's plan on Monday night. But that's kind of the structure of the Bills defense, and kind of the give and take, and kind of curious to see if they adjust or what the Falcons try to force them into.
Yeah. Now, when we flip sides of the ball and we look at this, Bills offense going up against the Falcons defense, for me, the big matchup that I'm focused on is hopefully getting a healthy return of AJ Terrell to help boost the secondary. We know that teams like to play man coverage against the Buffalo Bills. They see it almost, if they're not number one, they're top 2 or 3 in terms of seeing man coverage. Doesn't really slow down Josh Allen really all that much. But it's like, well, we can't give him wide open windows to throw into. But if the Falcons want to play man coverage, which is something that Jeff Ulbrich, as the Falcons defensive coordinator, did a ton of in New York, they don't have quite Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed in terms of AJ Terrell and Mike Hughes. And that's not a shot at AJ Terrell. It's more a shot at Mike Hughes. But they're going to probably play a lot of man coverage because that's just sort of the way it is. And basically, I'm looking at it like, if AJ Terrell doesn't come back for this Monday night game, it's going to be a long night if the Falcons are going to try to play that way. And if they just try to play zone, I don't know if that's really going to slow down this Bills offense. So I feel like the key matchup is going to be AJ Terrell against whoever he's covering. And if he can kind of eliminate that receiver from the field, then maybe the Falcons will have, be able to shade Jesse Bates and hopefully, get him or Xavier Watts to maybe help out the other cornerback. And that may help slow down this Bills passing attack.
Kind of follow up with you on that. And I don't think you're wrong. AJ Terrell is a terrific football player and should line up against another team's number 1 wide receiver. Well, who is that for the Bills? It's Dalton Kincaid, I guess? Is it Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman? I don't know. I think that's kind of the whole deal with the Bills offense is their slogan, everybody eats. Like, that's what they do. It's not about any one receiver. It's about Josh Allen throwing to the open guy, right? And that's kind of what they've done since moving on from Stephon Diggs. It's been, hey, here's this group of skill players, and well, it's not about any one of them, right? And so a player like AJ Terrell can match up with a number 1, but it's somewhat, to me, mitigated in a game like this. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to make the defense better. There's no question about it. But when you do consider, okay, AJ Terrell comes in and takes something away, what would you hope that is? And would that be significant enough for the Bills to not lean into their, okay, sure, we'll just spread the ball around to every different player that we have, which is what they've done now for the last year?
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to say AJ shadow this one guy. Yeah. I think you're probably just going to park him on one side of the field and just kind of hope you just take away that side of the field and you can kind of funnel the ball to one side, and then again have your safeties and have Jesse Bates do all the cheating that he loves to do, and maybe you can snag an interception just because okay, he can cheat a little bit more to that other side because AJ is going to lock down his side of the field.
That's compelling, and then we'll see how it goes. Josh he's never been shy at throwing at any corner, right? Like he likes to do it, and some of the best opportunities for Buffalo could be in the middle of the field, like traditionally, but okay, well, here's Xavier Watts and Jesse Bates, a couple of ball hawks in the middle of the field there. So I think you have some interesting give and take here with how these teams match up in terms of the Bills offense against that Falcons defense. And you call out Jeff Ulbrich. He knows about playing against Josh Allen, this Bills team. So that should be interesting. I'm curious to see how this rushing attack looks against Atlanta, something that I think they've kind of struggled with. And I think the Bills have a really unique run scheme. What have you seen from the Falcons in their front defending the run, and what type of plans they might have for James Cook and company?
Yeah, it's been a pretty consistent through line through the first 4 games. Is the Falcons' base defense pretty solid against the run. their nickel defense, pretty terrible against the run. So if you can kind of get into 11 personnel and run the football, that has been a very effective way of running the football. I know Buffalo typically loves to get their tight ends more involved with Jackson Hawes and Kincaid and Dawson Knox and whatnot. And so I think that will be interesting to sort of see if Buffalo leans on that with 12 personnel, 13 personnel, all those various things. And I think that plays maybe to the strength of the Falcons run defense with more base defense as opposed to their nickel. But I'll be curious to see how that kind of carves it up, because I do think, even though Bijan is the signature back in this game, James Cook is, balling out this season. And so he's going to probably be one of the biggest challenges for this Falcons defense.
And two good running backs going head to head here on Monday night.
Absolutely. So we will talk more about this matchup, including keys to victory, as we wrap up today's Crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks. So with the NFL season back, there's nothing better than getting into the stadium surrounded by fans and cheering on your team. And whether you're a Falcons fan or a Bills fan, making your way to Mercedes-Benz Stadium this Monday night, the perfect opportunity and avenue for you to get tickets is, of course, Game Time, who takes the guesswork out of getting tickets. What you see is what you get, whether we're talking about the all the fees being included. So the price you see is the price you pay, as well as the panoramic seat views. And with Game Time, and when you download the Game Time app and create an account and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. And that's perfect for checking out a game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because for those of you, especially you Bills fans that may not be familiar, $20 can go a long way when it comes to concessions in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So it's a perfect match. So make sure you redeem code LOCKEDONNFL and you'll get $20 off when you download the Game Time app. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And with the NFL season being back, FanDuel is making sure that you are fully ready with this can't miss offer, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and then you will get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. And you can use, there's so many ways to win with FanDuel, whether we're talking about betting the spread, same game parlays, player props, all that's available for you. If you just want to bet the spread, the Bills are 4.5-point favorites in this Monday night matchup. But of course, there are so many other ways to win over at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Make sure you visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today in order to get started. So wrapping up here is today's Crossover Thursday here. Aaron Freeman, Joe Marino. We're talking keys to victory. Joe, get us started.
Well, I know we come in with three keys, but I feel like I have to talk about 1 and 2 in concert here. I've already gotten into Bijan Robinson and the problem that he is. And I'm sure, man, you're going to do however many crossovers this year, and every one of these hosts are going to come in here talking about, well, they got to figure out how to deal with Bijan Robinson, right? So I'll be no different here. I don't have the answer for that. If I did, I might be coaching. But he's a problem, right? And I think because of that, I think you have to be willing to play a little bit differently. And what I would do in order to defend Bijan Robinson and neutralize him the best you can is I think it affects the way you structurally play defense. And I think your best opportunity to contain Bijan is to obviously get population to the football. And I want to put guys in a position to get there quicker and have less distance to cover. And so I want to be more willing to play one high middle of the field closed coverages where I commit somebody as a hole defender. I want to play Cole Bishop or Taylor Rapp, one of my safeties, more towards the line of scrimmage. And I think in doing so, I think you position yourself better to give yourself a better chance to contain Bijan Robinson. But also it goes into the key and the idea that we were talking about already, that Atlanta just hasn't proven to be much of a threat throwing the ball down the field. And I think that will probably change at some point. But make them show that they can do it. Right now this season, Michael Penix, when throwing the ball to a target that's 10 yards or more down the field, he's 17 of 43 for 311 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. His passer rating on throws targeting somebody 10 or yards more down the field is 45.8. That's dead last in the NFL. His completion percentage on throws 10 or yards more down the field is 39.5%. That's 29th out of 32. His completion percentage over expectation, minus 6.8, 29th in the NFL, and his accuracy's been bad. His catchable ball rate on throws 10 or yards more down the field is 51%. That's 31st. Maybe he can get it together. And I'm not saying the book on him is written, but he needs to prove that this year. And I'd invite it. I'd invite it at the expense of maybe giving up a deep play, but I'd rather do that than sit there and have Bijan Robinson just rip off chunk after chunk after chunk because you didn't get enough population lower to the alignment to give yourself a chance to contain the guy. So I think it goes hand in hand. How do you stop Bijan Robinson? I think it's population. And in doing so, I think you invite Atlanta to prove something that has not gone well for them this year based on your coverage structure.
Okay. I think that would be an interesting choice. So I hope the Bills do that because I want to see this Falcons vertical passing game get unleashed and get unlocked because that was going into the season something that we thought would be a strength and we haven't seen it quite yet. So
well, and I think the other side of that is, well, yeah, you're making a risk. I understand that. You also have been a very good team at rushing the passer this year. The Bills are like number 5 in the NFL in sack rate. Their pressure rates are very good. And you got a nice matchup opportunity. I don't think Elijah Wilkinson's a slug at right tackle. I think he's obviously an experienced player, but that's a depth player that you have a chance to go up against with Greg Rousseau and Joey Bosa, and Penix is left-handed. So that's his blind side protector. And so I do think, you do have to then rely on your pass rush, but I do think that there could be some ripe opportunities. I know that Atlanta's been pretty good in pass pro. Their metrics are very strong, but I do like that one-on-one matchup opportunity for the Bills to potentially win against the right tackle.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile gamble if you're the Bills. I think you given the success that team has had, that you feel like you can take that risk and see if it works out in your favor. And I think the Falcons will, if the Bills go down that road, I think the Falcons should have an opportunity to, make them pay for that. And that will ultimately, I think, be a key factor to deciding this game. When I look at, these keys to victory, they're always the cliches, but like the Falcons have to be better in the red zone. Buffalo has been pretty solid in the red zone, 14th on offense, 16th on defense. The Falcons, meanwhile, 26th on offense, 25th on defense. So as you move the ball, which the Falcons have had a lot of success moving the ball, things just started to stagnate once they get inside the 20. And if you're going to be able to keep pace with this Bills team, those things can't continue to happen. So you have to go out there and show that you can convert in the red zone. And that includes running the football. That includes, being more precise in your passing game and all those things. But, these things like red zone and turnovers, these are cliches for a reason because they do often decide the outcomes of these very close one-score games that often are the case in the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's a fair call out. It seems simple, but it's so true. The last key that I have down, Aaron, is the Bills got to run the ball. Got to run the ball. I mean, metrically, Atlanta's actually been pretty good defending the pass, right? And they're going to get A.J. Terrell back this week. I'm curious, though, after they played Baker Mayfield, it was J.J. McCarthy, Bryce Young, and Marcus Mariota without Terry McLaurin. So, I hear you, but also, that's not shying me away that their metrics have been good based on the quarterbacks. They hadn't been good defending the run. They're 27th in EPA per run. The Bills' run scheme is pretty unique in how they want to pound the rock. A lot of multiplicity. They'll get multiple tight ends. They'll get the fullback going. And I think through that, what you want to do is compromise the tackling ability of the corners. Like A.J. Terrell, really good football player, misses a ton of tackle. He's got a 16% career missed tackle rate. Mike Hughes misses a ton of tackles, 14% missed tackle rate. Billy Bowman, man, he's been a nice looking rookie, but the guy has never been a tackler. Missed 25% of tackles in college, right on par, 17% so far in the NFL. You got to put these guys in positions where they got to tackle. And one of the things about James Cook is he's a really good spill runner. He's not a guy that is going to abandon tracks and just get horizontal. Like, don't get it wrong. He's not CJ Spiller. But he will employ spill technique sometimes on duo runs and really dare the slot to come and tackle or dare a corner to fill. And I think you got a ripe opportunity to challenge these corners and slot corner and Bowman to tackle. And I like how that could go for Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm glad we got a CJ Spiller reference here on this crossover Thursday.
Oh, listen, I'll slander CJ Spiller any chance I can, man. Any chance I can do it.
Okay. Good old Clemson running backs.
Oh, he's good at Clemson. He's good at Clemson, but boy, the guy was allergic to contact in the NFL, and boy, you can't be that way in the National Football League.
That is true. That is definitely true. Yeah, I do think stopping the run for the Falcons is going to be paramount. And you sort of mentioned it. I know some of my listeners get upset with me because I haven't been hyping up the defense to the degree that the numbers say I should be hyping. Oh, this Falcons defense is one of the top in the league. Statistically, it is. But I kind of want to see them against a real offense with a real quarterback before I can truly judge whether or not this Falcons defense is for real. It's definitely significantly improved over what the Falcons have historically had on defense. That is 100% true. But where exactly, how much improvement it is, I think we're going to find out on Monday night. And so it starts with stopping the run, but the pass defense, I think, is going to be competitive. But how competitive, I think, is sort of remains an open question because they just, as good as Baker Mayfield is, I don't think he's Josh Allen. Is basically where I'm at.
Well, and I mean, how about all these young players that Atlanta has? What's Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Rook. I'm not trying to say that last name. I'll tell you that. Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman. Caden Ellis. I like him, man. They got some really good young players and a lot of guys that just need more time. And so I think the fact that even though they're questionable opponents, anybody can watch this Falcons defense right now through 4 games and realize that they've made strides. And it's obviously there's a vision that they wanted to come into. And as those guys get time on task, you can start to feel it more and more. And going back to where we were at the beginning, I'm excited to learn more about the Falcons because I think they're a potent young team. How quickly can it come together? They'll have a good chance coming off the bye on Monday night to make the statement that New England did. Boy, they're the toast of the league right now, right? So Atlanta wants to get a little of that shine. They know what to do on Monday night.
Yeah, definitely. So, Joe, even though I cover this team every single day, I also want to find out more about this Falcons team going up against this Bills team. So, like I said, it is a great measuring stick for how far this Falcons team has come. And we'll get to see it all unfold on Monday Night Football. So make sure you stay tuned here for Locked On Falcons and Locked On Bills all week and weekend long to get ready for that action. Of course, you can check out both shows if you subscribe and follow on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to get the scoop on what's going on elsewhere in the league, we got a Monday night doubleheader. So if you want to find out more about that second matchup, go check out Locked On NFL, 2 shows daily. It is all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.